The Cowboys OT is brought to you by Sleep Number. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
A 4-game win streak snapped. 17-point lead evaporated, and the NFC East title hopes vanished for the Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Jacksonville Jaguars at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. 40-34 the final score as the Jags sneak up on the Cowboys and take this one in overtime. A Rayshon Jenkins pick six to close it gives the win to the Jaguars here in Week 15. Welcome into Cowboys OT from the Star in Frisco. We've got Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Youmans breaking down what just happened to the Cowboys. They entered 10-3. They leave 10-4 with an overtime loss, and really their chances for an NFC East crown have basically evaporated down to zero. Barry, what happened in the final moments of this one?
Well, I'm going to go on the defensive side of the football. And, you got to give kudos to Doug Peterson. I think he had a great game plan going in there, a lot of creativity we saw out there, and it kept the Dallas Cowboys defense off balance. But there was two things that kind of just didn't sit well with me after this game. I mean, first you look at it, this team with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they rushed the ball 27 times for 192 yards. All right, 192 yards. You're not going to win many games when teams are able to dictate what they do in the trenches to you, and that's exactly what Jacksonville was able to do to Dallas this afternoon. And then also you backdoor that with Jacksonville being 8 for 12 on third downs. 8 for 12 on third downs. Usually Dallas has been a monstrous defense when it comes to third down percentages, but Jacksonville was able to get the better of them on the money down. They kept the drives alive. They wore that defense down, and at the end of the day, they were able to get the W.
First half, we were 18 minutes and 47 seconds. We was 50% on third downs. We were on our way. We had 21 points. And to their 7, then all of a sudden the second half showed up. Trevor Lawrence showed up, and that is what's been the difference. We've played quarterbacks that have been so-so. We've waited to the point where we turned the game on. We played it when we want to. Today we were forced to play a whole second half and into overtime, and we didn't show up.
I'm just going to keep it simple, fellas. Turnovers. Turnovers. I know you say, oh, well, they only had 2 turnovers. Dallas can't afford that. We've shown you over the past few weeks that turnovers gives teams the opportunity to win ball games. You had the perfect recipe for success. Dallas got up early. Check that off the ball. Dallas led the game in time of possession. Check that off the box. Kept Dak under 35 passes. He had 30 attempts tonight. Check that off. Everything was going good. Over 100 yards rushing. All those things were good. What was the one category that you messed up? You gave them 2 extra opportunities to score. That ultimately lost you the game.
Yeah, one of them was cashed in for points. The other one resulted in the pick six that ended the ball game in overtime. But let's see how this one really unfolded for the Cowboys. First trip to Jacksonville since 2006, and they were looking to cash in on an early Jaguars turnover. They did just that. Zeke into the end zone from 10 yards out, his 7th straight game with a rushing touchdown. Dallas would double their lead on the next drive. Peyton Hendershot open on a wheel route, and he catches it for the touchdown, Isaiah.
Yeah, this is a heck of a concept by Kellen Moore. He ran a double post, ran Hendershot on the wheel route. Dak had time, delivered a nice ball, dropped it right over the shoulder of that DB. Touchdown, Cowboys.
His second career touchdown had the Cowboys up 14-0 early in the second. Jacksonville would get back on top, or at least back within striking distance. 9-play, 75-yard drive. Zay Jones with a touchdown. Mike McCarthy got back to the ground game. An 11-play drive leads to Noah Brown on the interior. Dallas up by 2 scores at halftime. Fast forward to the final 4 minutes of the third quarter. Dallas up by 17, but that lead takes a hit. Zay Jones beats Kelvin Joseph here, Barry, for 6 points, 59 yards for the score.
Yeah, this was a great double move right here by Zay Jones, a stop and go. Kelvin Joseph, young DB, eyes in the wrong place, and you see what happens right there. You're going to watch the wide receiver go in the end zone. You got to keep your eyes on your luggage.
That was a huge hit for the Cowboys, only up by 10. Dak Prescott under pressure, forces it into a tight window. It's intercepted by Jacksonville, and the return takes it all the way down to the 20-yard line. That's the first chance for Jacksonville given to them in the ball game. Cowboys on defense with their backs against the wall had them on third down, but it was Trevor Lawrence to Marvin Jones Jr. to make it a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter. Cowboys stall out on offense to start the fourth. Jacksonville finds the end zone again with Zay Jones again. His third of the game, 21 unanswered for Jacksonville, put them on top for the first time. Dallas needed a big answer. They got one with Noah Brown on the ensuing drive. The touchdown has 2 on the day for Noah Brown and a 3-point lead for the Cowboys. Jacksonville driving again, looking for points, and it's Trevor Lawrence on the run. It's knocked out by Jalen Kearse, recovered by Micah Parsons. The game looks like it's over, right? Well, wrong. Dallas stalls out on offense, gives the ball back to Jacksonville. They convert on a 48-yard field goal attempt to send it into OT. Dallas defensively, though, would force a stop. Offense, all they need is a field goal. That's it to win the ball game. On 3rd down and 4, Dak Prescott sees the pocket collapse, throws it to his left. It's batted up in the air, intercepted by Rayshon Jenkins, and Jenkins does the rest. Back to the house, a game ender, a walk-off pick 6 for Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. 40-34 the final score as Dak Prescott and the Cowboys fall to 10-4 on the season. There's the final stats. 500 total yards for the Jacksonville offense, including nearly 200 on the ground and 300 through the air. Trevor Lawrence and company were nearly perfect in the second half, and they needed to be to come out on top, but the Cowboys let this one slip, and thus their chances for an NFC East crown slip as well. When we come back, we look at what went wrong on the offensive side of the football. A couple interceptions from Dak Prescott that's turned into a problem. How do they fix it when we come back on Cowboys OT?
This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys fall on the road to Jacksonville in overtime. Welcome back into Cowboys OT. Dak Prescott, his final stat line reads 23 of 30, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns. That sounds good, right? I mean, only 7 incompletions. That's a pretty good stat line. 2 interceptions, one of which was the pick 6 that closed that out in overtime. What did you think of his performance, Nate, and what he was able to do, especially toward the second half of that one?
Yeah, he was sharp in the first half. He did what he had to do. He played hard. He was precise in how he was doing it. But as the game went on, it got a little ragged. And that last one, you know, it was a difficult throw, a difficult catch, but I would have thought that Noah would have came up with it because Noah was having a good game.
Dak Prescott, to your point, they executed the game plan. Kellen Moore, I was very proud of him and how he came out and executed running the ball effectively, and then doing what? Allowing Dak to play off of play action. That is the recipe for success for this Dallas Cowboys offense. However, the issue that Dak Prescott is having isn't necessarily the stat line in terms of completions. It's not about the yardage that he's getting. It's when he's having these turnovers and the fact that he's even having these. Last week was against the Texans inside the 10-yard line late in the game. Today you have one late in the game inside the 30-yard line, and then another one in overtime that ultimately ends the game. Dak Prescott just has to be able to hold back, get used to throwing the ball away, or simply tucking it and getting some yards and sliding. But you can't put your team in these situations to lose ball games.
15 of 16 for 137 and 2 touchdowns in the first half. That switched into 8 of 14 for 119, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in the second half. So, Isaiah, it's problems compounding on top of each other. And we'll talk about that for the defense in a moment. But with Dak Prescott, how do you stay away from forcing things? Because right now, that's exactly what it looks like.
I think he's just trying to make plays. And that's the thing about athletes, right, and playmakers. You know, you want to be that guy that puts your team right over the edge. I mean, you talk about that throw right there. That was an unorthodox throw that he had to Noah Brown. The other one that he threw to Noah Brown in the end zone was another unorthodox throw. And then the one at the end of the game that turned into an interception, another unorthodox throw that just didn't work in his favor. So you have to take the good with the bad sometimes, but it's just knowing when you should try these plays and when you can't afford to have them.
You know, he just got to settle himself down. He got to start looking at film, him and his offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach, and understand when you can do these things. What were you thinking? What are you seeing? And work through this. Work through this mentally, work through this physically, then go out on the field and do extra work with your receivers, with everybody out there, so you'll be on the same page.
And one of the questions that Cowboys Nation is undoubtedly asking right now, can it be fixed before playoff time?
Yeah, it absolutely could be fixed because these are decisions. That play right there is a decision. Your guy that's right in front of you is not open. What do you need to do? You either keep it, you either take that sack, or you throw it out of bounds. Either way, the possession stays with you.
I agree with him 100%. I mean, it's all about decision. The better quarterbacks in the league, I'm not saying Dak is not a great quarterback, but the top-line quarterbacks, they don't make those bad decisions in critical positions.
How did the run game look for Kellen Moore in this offense? Because, of course, we talked about it before. This offense goes as the running game goes. And Ezekiel Elliott finishing with 58 yards, Tony Pollard with 75. Were you happy, Nate, with what they were able to do on the ground?
Oh, definitely. I mean, they ran the ball. It was effective. The only thing that happened was we got into the second half and we got into the red zone and didn't score. We got in there twice and we gave up field goals and we should have scored points. That would have helped our cause. See, when we didn't do that right there, hey, it put Dak in control.
Is that on play calling? The fact that you weren't able to succeed in the red zone?
I have to look at the film to understand what happened there.
Yeah, I would have to do the same. But when you look at the stat line, 41 attempts for 154 yards, and you felt like you were in control of the game when you were executing your game plan. Again, it just comes down to the fact that you gave the ball up in bad situations.
And with that being said, were you happy with the way that Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb? I mean, CeeDee Lamb had a phenomenal game. 7 receptions on all 7 targets, 126 through the air. He didn't have a touchdown, but he had nearly a 40-yard reception. How would you grade out what the wide receivers did?
The ball wasn't spread around enough, or at least as much as I thought that you should have. I mean, you looked at the stat line. CeeDee Lamb went 7 for 7 for 126. Noah Brown was the next man up, 2 touchdowns off of 6 catches, 49 yards. And then after that, it really kind of just fell off. And Tony Pollard received a couple. Hendershot obviously had the touchdown. But typically you see him spread the ball around. But because they were so effective in the running game, they didn't need to throw it around. Again, it just goes back to that one bad decision in regulation and then the second bad decision in overtime, which ultimately killed the Cowboys.
And I'm out to echo that. I mean, he was throwing the ball. I mean, he was completing it. Like I said, in the first half, he was doing a great job. It came to the second half. It seemed like they just got disjointed. I don't know if it's lack of concentration or what it is, but as the game goes on, you should grow in confidence. We lost the momentum coming out of halftime. We never gained it back as far as our wide receivers and quarterback connection.
Yeah, it was a big run of 21 unanswered points for Jacksonville right there in the middle, and a big reason for that was the offense stalling out on multiple drives in a row or having an interception. Here's a look at the numbers. We'll take a look at the offensive line a little bit later on in the show because that was a big-time talking point as well for this Cowboys offense in a game where they didn't necessarily look as clean and as crisp as they had been during their 4-game winning streak. It's a big reason why they fell in Jacksonville, 40-34 in overtime. When we come back, Barry Church rejoins us. We talk about the defensive side of the football. First time all season they've given up 40 points or even more than 31. What happened there? Can it get fixed before the playoff time really comes to the table?
This segment was brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys fall on the road in the house that Barry built, TIAA Bank Stadium. He played for the Jaguars, but he's on the Cowboys side of things in this one.
Facts.
Unfortunate loss for the Cowboys, 40-34 the final score. Back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback. Let's talk about the defensive side of the football. 40 points allowed, 500 yards. This isn't 2020, this is 2022, and this is a Cowboys defense that is as highly rated, as highly ranked as any other in the NFL. Why did they fall short today?
Well, I think offenses are starting to figure out the playbook for this defense. All right, they're putting a lot of attention towards Micah Parsons, which they should. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. But before we've seen earlier in this season, when all the attention went to Parsons, the one-on-ones were being won by, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Fowler, and those guys. They were able to win those one-on-one battles and get after the quarterback. This is the second week straight where they've had one-on-one opportunities, but were not able to win it. The pocket was too clean for Trevor Lawrence back there, and he was able to show why he's the #1 overall pick. He diced his secondary apart, especially in the second half. He was able to pick on those young DBs out there. And to me, this defense, they've got to get back to that waves and waves of pass rushers getting after these quarterbacks if they want to have a chance against the better teams in the league.
I totally agree with you. I also think that the Philadelphia Eagles earlier in the season showed a heck of a game plan on how to really keep these defensive linemen at bay, how to stop the pass rush. Then you couple that with last week against the Texans, and Lovie Smith brought a heck of a game plan where there was no sacks, right? So you have two teams that did a great job of kind of showing you the way, kind of the blueprint per se, and then you couple that with the fact that you lost Jonathan Hankins, right? This is the first game that since Jonathan Hankins has been out that these guys have given up over 100 and some yards, right, on a consistent basis. Prior to Jonathan Hankins, they were giving up 200 yards. Jonathan Hankins' first game, they gave up another 200. After that, teams were only averaging about 90 yards per game. Now all of a sudden he's gone, and now a team hits you for 192, right? There's a big void right there, and I don't know who's going to be able to fill it.
So with that being said, which one do you blame more of the poor performance on? Do you blame it on a young secondary that had some struggles throughout the course of this game defending the pass? Or do you talk about a pass rush that's supposed to be the strength of your team, only ending up with 1 sack and only a handful of pressures?
To me, I'm putting it on the pass rush because that should have been, or it was, a strength leading up to this game. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, you had the waves from Parsons all the way down to Fowler that were able to affect the quarterback game in and game out. And what we saw from this game, the Jacksonville Jaguars fell right into the lap of the Cowboys defensively. They had went up 2 scores, and usually that was a death sentence for other teams because that rush was able to come alive and get after the quarterback. They haven't been able to do so. They have injuries in the secondary. They're young, but that pass rush, they've got to help out the cover unit in the back end.
Yeah, I think that they have to get home. They have to figure out a way, but again, teams are starting to figure out how to put this defensive line in this front at bay. They're going to have to make some changes, especially going into this Philadelphia week.
Yeah, you've got to find a way to get home, right? I mean, this is the second straight week where the pass rush has been neutralized. Last week, it was for no sacks. This week, it was Micah Parsons, the only one that got a sack, and that came in the first half. Here's a look at the stats. You see the one up there, the 1 sack. Did force a couple turnovers. I mean, the fumble in the first half from Travis Etienne, that resulted in a touchdown. Deron Bland had his 4th interception of the year, so it wasn't all bad. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, this defense has to be the strength of your team. Mike McCarthy has said it earlier in the season, when things go right, this is the thermostat. The defense is the thermostat of this team. When that thermostat breaks, where do you go? Do you have to call an AC unit? Who are you trying to get to heat up your team or cool down your team, whatever it ends up being, whatever the temperature may be? This is the team, the unit that has to roll things for the Dallas Cowboys. When we come back, we hear from Mike McCarthy and what his thoughts were following the loss in Jacksonville. We go out to TIAA Bank Field right after this on OT. (40-34) the final score from Jacksonville, Florida. The Cowboys fall to 10-4 on the road with an overtime loss against the Jaguars. Kyle Youmans back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, and Nate Newton. But before we hear from those guys, let's go back out to TIAA Bank Field and hear from head coach Mike McCarthy.
Okay, questions please, David.
Mike, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Can you start with what you saw on the pick 6 at the end, just what the play call was and how it developed?
Yeah, I mean that's always a conversion play and a scramble and an unlucky bounce for us. Great, hell of a play by them.
What's your frustration level given you had a 17 we knew coming in here they were playing extremely well. We identified it all week. I thought the players had a good week of preparation. That's a talented team, and I think Doug does an excellent job. But the numbers, and the things that we didn't do so well. But it was knockdowns. You could just feel the game the way it was going. And that's particularly when we kicked the 2 field goals. We just needed to keep getting touchdowns. We had a number of injuries on defense. I really felt our young guys did a hell of a job stepping in there. Because we had a lot of guys going in and out. So definitely disappointed. And it just as I told them in the locker room. When you look at this game in Green Bay, you lose 2 overtime games, but We've put a tremendous amount of work into end-of-game situations in this phase, in this situation. And I'm just a huge believer you just got to keep working, stay after it. They know the investment that they've made really the last 2 years. I mean, after my first year, that's clearly was something that we need to improve on. And I'm disappointed, but in the same breath, we got a crazy schedule here that not crazy, we got a different schedule we're dealing with, and so we'll take a look at it here on the buses, on the planes, and when we touch down, we got to turn the page. Mike, Newy Scruggs, NBC5 Dallas. Can you take me through the thought process when you threw deep to Noah Brown, ended up stopping the clock, and they did not have to use a timeout?
Well, they had a timeout there, so I mean, your decision there is, offensively, you play it conservative and run the ball to take the time off or you try to end the game. So I mean, it's a pretty simple decision, and when it converts, it's a great call. When it doesn't, you get criticized for it.
Cal. Sorry, Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. How concerned are you with your secondary right now?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I'm more concerned with the health of our team. We've had a rough stretch here the last 3 games. we've lost a number of starters, and but our guys are jumping in there, and the things I pay close attention to is the communication and the interaction, and and Dan was able to still have enough calls to stay competitive. We're in a bunch of situational calls in the fourth quarter and so forth, and have your young guys in there on that. So that shows that where they are in their development. But let's be honest, we've had a little bit of an injury cycle here. This is for our third game in a row, and hopefully this is we come out of this. We'll see how when we get back. So and then obviously we got one here on Saturday coming up quickly.
Michael Duncan, Dallas Morning News. You guys won't be getting any help here at cornerback. Where do you guys go from here at that outside corner in that defense?
I mean, Michael, I get maybe I'm not really there right now. To be honest, my next conversation will be the training room. So I just want to sit and see how we came out of this game.
Coach Bruce Hope, Florida Star newspaper. Was there any overlooking this Jaguars team? You got some big ones coming up. You guys are really fighting for your division.
Not at all. I mean, I think, this is my 29th, year in this league. You don't overlook any game. So when we have conversations about don't take the cheese, it's really for the younger players and just to stay focused based on the questions they have to answer that are going to be different than they normally answer. So we spent a lot of time on the film, and game plan. Like I said, I thought we had a good week of practice. So, there's an uncommon opponent. These guys haven't played against each other before, so I thought our guys put the time in, and it was a hell of a football game, and we came on the wrong side.
Okay. Mike, you said before that even though you were still chasing Philly, you controlled your own destiny in a lot of ways because you knew what was ahead of you. Does this? If discouragement at all, is if this one kind of takes that out of your hands now and you gotta
see, David, I'm not wired that way because I expect to win every day. I mean, that's just something I was, that's the way I was as a kid too. So I'm just on to the next one, and I've been at this long enough to know that at the end of 17 games, it sorts itself out. And I've been the 1 seed and been knocked down my ass, and won it from the 5th seed. So I mean, I'm not, like I said, we're not supposed to talk about that till we get to 11 wins, and we're not there yet. So, but we just got to keep our head down, keep working, and we'll react properly to this. It's a very accountable locker room. I love this. I love this bunch. They do it the right way. So we'll just stay after it, and we'll definitely come out of this.
The run defense took a step back today.
Yeah.
Outside contained some of those perimeter type runs. Is that just the injuries showing up, or do you think that regression or something else?
Yeah, I just know obviously had some contained challenges. So that'll obviously be a focus, and obviously we have to be on top of it as we get ready for the next one. But yeah, the run defense definitely wasn't what it needed to be today.
So before we start talking, how do you explain Dak's rash of interceptions? I know they're all on his fault, but they seem to be coming.
Yeah, I think that the thing is, it's you have in the pocket and you have out of the pocket quarterback play, and just it goes this way sometimes. I mean, I don't know if he could have played much better in the first half, and actually, you take away 2 throws, and they all count. So I'm not that kind of guy that doesn't count them all. But I thought he played at a really high level today. So. But the two interceptions definitely, factored in the points for Jacksonville. So, we'll just keep working, keep plugging. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just keep diving into it. I get the reason, the question, and all that, but he's trying to do it the right way. That's for sure.
got it.
You can hear the frustration there from Mike McCarthy following the 40-34 loss to Jacksonville. Back here with Barry Church and Nate Newton. Dak Prescott, we'll hear from him in the next segment, so we won't dive too far into that. But we do want to talk about the defensive side of the football. Most points allowed this season. They gave up 34 in regulation. Of course, the overtime points, the 6 points at OT, was off of a pick 6. But Barry, or I'll start with you, Nate. We'll let Barry kind of back in this on the corners. Young defensive backs tested like they were today against this Jacksonville team. What did you think about Kelvin Joseph and DaRon Bland? Bland ended up with a pick, but Kelvin Joseph gave up 2 touchdowns.
See, early in the game, and they don't have a book on you. They don't know what they're looking at. You know, you're jumping routes, you're doing well. We had pressure in the first half from the front of our defense, but as the game went on, these guys started getting tested. The coach started figuring it out. The offensive coordinator said, "Oh, this move here, he's looking in the backfield, coach. That's double moving. Take him deep." Now, Bland been playing like a veteran since day one, and he's doing it. But Joseph, Nashawn Wright, these guys, they're still learning. They haven't had the live reps like the other guys have. But if they can just start believing in the defense, believing in their techniques, they can grow.
Yeah, when it comes to these young defensive backs, they have to find an answer. They have to find an answer because right now it was supposed to be Kelvin Joseph who was able to step in there for Anthony Brown with his injury going on out there. But when he stepped in there, you just saw he kind of seemed like he was lost. I mean, every time he steps in and gets a lengthy opportunity at the cornerback position, he's giving up a touchdown pass or some type of deep ball. And today was nothing new. Another 2-touchdown day on Kelvin Joseph. And when I look out there, it's not the physical attributes because he can run with anybody. He's fast, he's strong, he's physical. It's the technique out there. And I don't know if he's not coachable or whatever is going on, but you see in these instances, eyes in the wrong place, double move. Going up to getting the high point, he's letting receivers just take it right off the top of his head. We've got to figure out a way to get this guy going in the right direction because the depth behind him with the injuries to Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown, it ain't much better. So they got to find a solution when you're talking about this defensive back group.
And it was a lesson learned from Kelvin Joseph specifically, but from your experience, I mean, as a young cornerback, Jacksonville went after Kelvin Joseph. They targeted him. How does a mindset change as a DB whenever you know they are targeting you and they're coming after you?
Some of the best defensive backs, especially corners that I've ever been around, they had that short-term memory. You're going to get beat when you're out there at the cornerback position. You're on an island. It's a given. Those guys, those wide receivers, they're good. They get paid as well, too. So you got to have that short-term memory. But when you let it snowball like that, when you give up a deep ball and you start to wear down on yourself, you see that body language, it just goes further and further down the hole. You got to have a short-term memory out there. Wipe this off, wipe this game in the past, and hopefully come back and have a great week of practice and get ready for Philadelphia.
Yeah, that short-term memory certainly a key in the game of football, especially for a quarterback, too. And Dak Prescott normally has that short-term memory, but recently those interceptions have been compounding. When we come back, we hear from Dak after the loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 40-34, the final score. We'll be back with more OT right after this. Back here on Cowboys OT, nearly a perfect first half for Dak Prescott. Not so much in the second half. 2 interceptions thrown. Here's what he had to say following the loss to Jacksonville.
David Moore, California News. You started with the interception in overtime, what happened there, and then also the one late in the second half.
Yeah, late in the second half, was trying to throw it to Dalton and kind of got grabbed from the back at the same time as I was throwing. The ball just came out of my hand, obviously high. Yeah, unfortunate. And then in overtime, crossing route, was throwing it low on purpose and just wasn't able to make the play and the connection between us two. And obviously tips up and guy makes a great catch right there above the ground and ends the game.
You were almost perfect in the first half. How do you explain the offense between the first half and the second half with the lull in the third quarter?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough spot, especially when the third quarter this season has been where we've come out. We've come out hot after making adjustments. And so for tonight, that'd be to be our lull and obviously have the turnover and have some stall outs, some 3-and-outs, and don't get it going. It's tough, but it's hard for me to give you that answer right now. Haven't watched film. Got to go back and do that and go from there.
Ed Werder, ESPN. Dak, you talked all week about eliminating the interception, how frustrated you were by him. How much you feel now, given the consequences of the last one?
Yeah, I mean, frustration grows, obviously. To end the game on a pick six, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's frustrating. And not only that, as I said, the first one, yeah, I mean, I just got to not even try to throw the ball right there. Feel the guy grab me and just tuck the ball and take the sack and just move on to the next play. And that's that balance. And obviously, I'll learn from it and tuck it next time. So it's tough. It's tough treading that line, trying to make a play, trying to be aggressive, and at the same time, not putting the ball at risk. So, yeah.
Calvin Watkins, in the regulation and third down, just your thought process of what you saw there on that incompletion down the sideline?
Yeah, I mean, it was a one-on-one. Obviously, we had a crossing route with CD. They they put 2 to 3 guys on him, and 31 was pretty much just off the whole time, and I just tried to throw it deep and give Noah a chance.
Dak talked after the ESPN. Does this change at all feelings going into Philadelphia week, or how does it alter it?
Honestly, it doesn't. Obviously, it sucks losing to start there, but if we had won that game right there on the field goal, I don't think that necessarily changes the low in the third quarter, the bad things that happened in this game. Yeah, so we've got to move on, just like any other week. I mean, it's not like I don't know what happened with Philly. Guessing they won. Yeah, so I mean, it's not like that puts us in a better position or not. So it's about, at this point, building, trying to get better, trying to clean up our mistakes, learn from our mistakes, and make sure that we're just carrying momentum heading into week after week as we move forward to get into this postseason.
Louis Scruggs, NBC5, Dak, the first interception, they got a touchdown out, and then obviously the second they scored. Do you put this on you in terms of this game being on? I mean, how do you internalize it?
Yeah, I mean, I take every loss on the chin. I think that's my job as a quarterback, to put us in positions to win and eliminate the mistakes and the potential chances to allow them to score after turnover. So, and that's what's frustrating about it, whether it's a tip ball, whether it's a unfortunate interception, whatever it is. They all suck. And at the end of the day, I've got to do a better job, and that's where it is when I say I take them on the chin, that's why I'm also trying to make those plays, to make those plays to put us in a better chance, put us in better field position, and give us a better chance to win. So, it's tough. It's tough when you lose second overtime game this year. I was losing 2 in overtime this year, and wanting to be in those positions, have the ball in my hand, and when it ends up like that, it sucks. It's a feeling that I don't like, and I've got to learn from it and do better, put the ball in better positions, and be smarter with it.
So last week it was a game-winning drive for Dak Prescott and the Dallas offense. This week, not so much. An interception, actually a pick 6 that ends the game in overtime. Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, and we've talked about Dak already and some of the decision-making that led to those interceptions, but let's talk about the pressure that led there too. And I'm not talking about mental side of things. I'm talking physical pressure because of the offensive line. Tyron Smith was back into the fold. You had Terrence Steele out for the season. Nate, when you looked at this offensive line, what went wrong up front?
In the first half, they was spot on. They was running the ball. They was making things happen. They was taking advantage of the red zone. But in the second half, they figured out a way, and I'm talking about Jacksonville defense, they figured out a way to get some chinks into the armor. We started rotating guys, and we did a little bit in the first half, but we started really doing it in the second half because Peterson, our right tackle, got hurt, one of the rotating guys, and now you start playing those musical chairs. I don't like it. I never will, because I think that you should get 5 guys and you roll with them so they can build some type of continuity. So when things does get hot and heavy and they start doing games and stunts and everything, everybody's on the same page. I just think it's something to that. You can pick whoever you want at whatever position, but make sure they're in there every game. And I think that Tyron Smith could have went a whole lot of snaps if they would have let him.
Hey, listen, y'all just heard from the godfather of the offensive line right here. He just told you what it is. Listen, Philbin, I understand that you've been a guru trying to figure things out over these past few years. You've done an immaculate job of mixing and meaning whatever you've been given out over these past years with the personnel. But today, you had a healthy Tyron Smith. And today, you decided to work him into it. This is a grown man who's been playing football at a high level for a very long time. If you're going to, and from my perspective, if you're going to try to protect somebody, just put him on the sideline. Don't slow roll him into the game. That's not how his position rolls. It's not a receiver. It's not a DB. These guys aren't rotational players. These guys play 60 to 70 snaps a game. I think Dallas has 74 snaps, somewhere around there. Let them stay in there. And to your point, Nate, either you put him at left tackle or you put him at right tackle. But either way, make a decision, stick with it, and then take the bumps and bruises as they come. But you cannot expect him to work his way back into it, playing 3, 4, 5 snaps at a time. And then, oh, by the way, Peters, here you go. You come in now.
It's a talking point from this past week. It will be a talking point this week and probably for the final couple weeks of the regular season as well, because it has not worked out yet. Maybe that offensive line can find some rhythm throughout practice here in Week 16. But when we come back, we talk about the pass rush that is all of a sudden gone from one of the highest rated sack leaders in the NFL to 2 straight weeks in 1 combined sack. When we come back here on Cowboys OT. On a team and a defense that leads the NFL in sacks per pass attempt, The Dallas Cowboys have now gone 2 weeks with a combined 1 sack. That 1 sack came from Micah Parsons. Here's what he had to say following the loss to Jacksonville.
What's the emotion after this one?
Man, it's tough. I mean, man, it's bitter, but you know, you got to suck it up. I mean, we got to finish the season strong. Obviously not, you know, the game we want to lose or how we want to lose, but you know, this is a bitter one. But we got to come out next week and finish these last couple games strong.
34 points. I think it's the most you guys have given up all season. What exactly went wrong there in the second half?
I mean, I gotta go look at it. You know, we can't point the blame. I mean, it's an everybody thing. It's 11 people out there, so obviously we gotta do something different and go get better from it. That one's, you know, everything can't be perfect. Everything can't be, but you strive for that type of execution. And giving up 34 is not execution, so we got to get better.
1 sack in the last 2 games, I think, as a team. I mean, versus you guys are leading the league prior to that. What are offensive lines doing something different in pass pro against y'all that's causing it?
I mean, like I said, we're not getting traditional looks. Obviously, way more chips. Balls coming out way faster. There's not a lot of drop back, more play action. You know, boot passes that's being thrown on. If they are, they're quicker passes. So obviously, it's a lot more quick game against us than if you were to look at any other game where there's more drop back, more things like that. So I mean, it's tough, but I mean, if you look at the film, we're getting different game plans. So we got to expect that and change our game plan.
Run defense, you guys have shown some improvement there in recent games. What would you make of seem to be a step back today?
We got to get back to the basics. We can't afford to get complacent this time of year. We got to come out and own our gaps, do everything we need to do right, and tackle better. We got to tackle. A lot of missed tackles. But one thing about it, just, you know, I'm not the type to come up here and make no excuses. I just say we just got to get better. You know, no excuse mentality. We got to fix our F-ups and, you know, just go from there.
How does Leighton in the first drive? What does he mean to this defense, to you personally?
Yeah, Leighton means a lot to me, and obviously the team. Leighton, he's an energy builder. I mean, he's a hard. He goes after the ball. He's hard, plays hard. He plays one of the hardest. He's one of the hardest guys I ever played with in my life. I mean, you know, his energy, his effort is all contagious. So hopefully we can get Leighton back real soon. I know he's all good, and I can't wait to see him ball out next week.
What do you think the key is to getting to that spot where you want to be before the playoffs or these next weeks?
We got to learn from these mistakes, and then we got to not repeat the same mistakes and play clean football, complimentary football. We got to do better. We got to get off the field, and we can't afford to give up the explosive plays.
Are there any positives to take from all these close games you guys are going through happening in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, there's not. I mean, when you look at the film, there's good things that we take from the games and things that, you know, we did really good at. Then there's games, there's things that we look at and we're like, we need to do better at that. We need to get better. And those parts where we got to get better, and the part that we're good at, we need to get better at, and the part that we're doing better at, we need to get really, really better at. So there's nothing like, when you look at the film, it's not like, oh my God, like we're terrible. We just, you know, they always say that it's a game of inches. And every inch we give up, that's closer, we are to our losing mark. So we got to clean up them inches.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
There's quite the pressure for this pass rush to get pressure going into that matchup against Philadelphia in Week 16, because 1 sack over the last 2 weeks probably not going to get the job done for a team that really relies on that front seven to get to the quarterback. When we come back, we hear about CeeDee Lamb. He had a big day, one of the few bright spots for the Cowboys, but they do fall short to Jacksonville. We'll be back with more Cowboys OT after this. Thanks to over 100 yards receiving for the third time this year, CeeDee Lamb became the 8th receiver in the NFL to hit 1,000 yards. Here's his thoughts following the loss to Jacksonville.
Upset. One late period. We felt like we should have won a game. We didn't. That's how it goes. No, we just lost. Should have put it off in the overtime. I mean, we had the opportunity, we just didn't capitalize.
Can you hold on to this feeling and use it in a productive way?
I mean, I guess you can say that. At the end of the day, like I said, we got to take every week, serious. It's December football. Everybody's going to give us their best shot, and we know that. And we got to capitalize. I can't hear you. Need help. For what? No, I don't think we need help. We're going to do what we got to do as a team and as an organization to contribute to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We never go just look for someone else to help us out or help them out.
27-10, where you were in the second half, is this one of the more surprising outcomes for you this season based on where you were and how the game was going?
Where I was or the team?
Where the team was.
Yeah, most def. Unfortunately, we lost the lead and we lost the game. So, like I said, I feel like we gotta just be more consistent. Just put the game away when we have the opportunity and not really let the opposing team get the benefit of the doubt or any type of momentum. Because obviously we know how big the momentum is in the NFL, and then with momentum you lose time. So.
On a day where Dak has touchdowns for
I mean, obviously that's not how it's supposed to go. But the guy just made a great play, I guess. I felt like we could have capitalized on the play. Just in general, we could have played better. Overall, we had a great offensive day, great defensive day, if you will. But we just gotta put a couple pieces together.
So you can catch the entire interview with CeeDee Lamb on DallasCowboys.com. When we come back here on Cowboys OT, Barry, Nate, and Isaiah rejoin the desk, and we'll wrap things up, look ahead to the Christmas Eve matchup with Philadelphia.
The Cowboys OT was brought to you by Sleep Number. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com. Trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
Well, we don't really have a nice, pretty Christmas bow to wrap this one up with. Instead, we're going to throw that into the rearview mirror. We're going to throw it behind us. 40-34 are the final scores. The Cowboys go on the road and fall to the Jacksonville Jaguars in OT. Welcome in to OT as we wrap things up from the Star in Frisco. Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback. Unfortunately, we can throw it in the rearview mirror, but it still results in a loss, and it'll stay there moving forward. Because of that, the hopes for an NFC East crown all but dashed. The Cowboys would have to win out, including next week against Philadelphia on Christmas Eve, and Philadelphia would have to lose out. How do they really salvage these final 3 games of the regular season and get ready for playoff play?
Well, you got to get back into the lab. All right, I'm sure this coaching staff will go over it when they get back on Monday, and they'll break everything down as far as what the Cowboys did right and what the Cowboys did wrong. But defensively, I think you still have to get back to getting after the quarterback. I don't know what has happened these past couple weeks, but quarterbacks have had time back there, especially last week against Houston. That 2-quarterback system really kind of confused the Cowboys, and then this week, Trevor Lawrence was able to pick them apart back there. So they've got to figure out a way to get back after the quarterback. Offensively, stick to the ground game. I know it didn't get you there today, but I'm telling you, if you continue to stick with that ground game and use Dak as a play-action quarterback, it'll only prove dividends later on in the season.
Isaiah's been talking about it all day long. No turnovers. You got to play almost a perfect game, especially coming up this week. You got to be strong, you got to be physical, and you got to be mean, because they got a front 7 over there for the Eagles that don't play. So you just got to get back to the drawing board and be who you need to be, a physical team.
And I'm going to say, stop talking about the playoffs. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are not in the playoffs. You're about to play 3 opponents that are serious about playing some ball. The Philadelphia Eagles, balling. You got the Titans, balling. And then obviously you got the Washington team. Those guys are going to be trying to figure things out, too, with a big game tonight against the Giants. Listen up. You need to take it week by week. Stop looking ahead and stop looking in the rear view. That's done. Don't look forward, because that's too far. Think about the right now. Take care of that, and you might have a chance to get in there and start talking about the playoffs.
And hopefully they learned that lesson today, because like you said, the Cowboys not in the playoffs just yet. Really good shot they could still wrap it up as early as next week, or even as early as tonight. If Washington loses in the Sunday Night Football matchup against the New York Giants, the Cowboys will, of course, clinch a playoff spot despite their loss in Jacksonville. But that's not what people are worried about. They're trying to play better going into the playoffs and trying to make a deep run this postseason. But that does it for us here on Cowboys OT. If you're a Cowboys fan heading out to AT&T Stadium for the Christmas Eve matchup, this crew will be out there for pregame and postgame coverage. But that does it For this week, the Cowboys fall to Jacksonville.